the larger your appetite for shabbiness, the stronger you will be as an entrepreneur.
Ooh, that's good.
And it sounds so counterintuitive, doesn't it? It sounds like, no, we have to get everything right. Well, guess what? Getting things right is a journey. Making any standard operating procedure, which is what I'm living and breathing right now at Jungli as we set up our ops to get to a gold standard, is a journey. You're not going to get it right on the first day. So just guess what? Make a shabby thing. Don't worry about the branding, okay? We get so hung up on branding that we forget that, dude, if you don't have an income right now, what are you worrying about a brand for? You don't have a brand, okay? Get people in, get cash flow going. Then the brand will organically build. There is a value to having good photographers and good designers. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in that, but there's a time and place for them. And before that, if you have to make a website of a co-living and you have to do phone photos initially, which is what I did, it's good enough until your dream photographer volunteer rocks up and takes the photos, which is what happened a few months after. And now you have great photos. Great. It's not like anyone's complaining, saying, oh, I can't believe your photos are just phone photos. No, that's all in our head. So improve the appetite for shabbiness.
Welcome to the Your Business Untethered podcast, a space for freedom seekers ready to build and scale a business that supports their wildest dreams, even while traveling the world. Hi, I'm Dina, creator of Way of the Founder and your host. I imagine this podcast as a space where aspiring and established freedom entrepreneurs come to forge a path towards purpose, financial freedom, meaningful impact, and location independence. I'll be your guide as we defy the norm, heal old conditioning, and step into the leaders we were born to be. I myself am a firstborn, a daughter of divorcee, sister, girlfriend, professional coach, nomad, and expat of a decade plus, as well as yoga aficionado and energy healer. In my previous career, however, I worked a 9-to-5 as a professional fundraiser for American orchestras. Can you believe it? However, I needed more. I needed more freedom in my life. So 5 years ago, I called quits on resume success and claimed back the reins over my own life. What started with a one-way ticket to Vietnam and a single backpack filled to the brim has since grown into Way of the Founder, where I've helped hundreds of clients defy and heal from the path that we're told to follow, redefine freedom, fulfillment, and success on their own terms, and build impact-driven businesses that let them live and work from anywhere. Join me each week for deep dives into leadership, strategy, and mindset, as well as the healing that fuel the untethered CEO. That's you. Whether you're building your dream with a coconut flight ticket, wine glass, or coffee in hand, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Divi. It's really excited to have you today. Please go ahead, introduce yourself. What is it that you bring to the world?
Hey, thank you so much, Dina. Firstly, it was a pleasure to bump into you at a bar in Vietnam and have this turn into a podcast with the Way of the Founder. I'm honored to be here. So to everyone that's listening, my name is Diveakssh Schae, or Divi for short. And myself, in two nutshells, I am an audio nomad. I've been traveling the world making music from beautiful places by recording the unique sounds of the places that I travel to and sharing that journey on Instagram and the fruit of the journey on Spotify and all platforms. And that journey has now taken me to my second nutshell. I have founded a nomad village in the rainforests of South India, converting my family's ancestral land into Jungli, the nomad village. So that's me.
Well, that's you in two nutshells, and then there are like 100 more nutshells. So we met at a bar, but I actually heard you talk about how to build a community, about your path and your journey out of a 9-to-5, working for Uber in Australia, into becoming an audio nomad, as you call yourself, and now an entrepreneur. And I just have so many questions. I'm definitely someone who thinks of Way of the Founder as being a huge global community, and I look to you for expertise on that. And something that really struck me about the way you approach life is something that you shared with me, and that is to lean into your fears, not in your dreams.
Yeah, that's been my recent mantra.
Yeah, and it's such a cool, controversial mantra. A lot of people are like, okay, about your fears, lean into your dreams. So actually, let's go ahead and start right here. Let's start in the middle. Okay. Where did this mantra come from, and how has it been guiding you?
It's a great question. So I've got a story for you, right? I've been working at Uber 4 or 5 years. I've saved up a little pot of money, and then long story short, I get made redundant because COVID happens and my job gets I get laid off from my job. And actually that's the dream, because I was just about to quit and dive into my savings. But instead, I got paid a lot of money to quit, and I got savings plus my golden handshake from the company. And then I went off with this post corporate mindset that I was carrying, and I met my very wise friend Lockie Gordon. And he's someone that had left Uber to go surfing in Bali. And that's not normal. People normally leave Uber to go to Google or Facebook or Amazon. And it's a very certain way of thinking about life and career. Whereas this guy was doing something different. So I happened to meet him in his cottage by a waterfall in Byron Bay, Australia. Stunning spot. And I said, hey, Lockie, here's what I've got, right? I've got X months of money and I want to follow my dreams. I want to make music work. So obviously what I need to do is I need to see if I can make this music thing work in the next 6 months. And if not, then I got to go find a job. And he just like looked at me and he smiled. And he said, why do you only have X months worth of money? Right. And I said, like, Lockie was an operations manager at Uber, just like me. We were both trained to think in the same way. I was like, what a stupid question. I said, look, Lockie, I spend this much money per month. And so if that's how much money I have, and if I divide the two, I get the number of months. That's called your runway. And I need to make it work in that runway, because I was treating my life as an Uber campaign. And he laughed at me, well, politely. And he basically explained to me that I was using what's called scarcity thinking. Whereas what I should be doing is using what's called abundant thinking. So scarcity thinking is this exact form or mindset I was carrying, which is you have so much money, divide the two, and these things will happen and make it work in that time. And abundant thinking is a level of thinking where you go, you know what? I'm born in this world to do something. My inner voice is telling me to do something. If I walk on that tightrope, right, and start balancing it out and walking this unknown path that's new to me, but my inner voice wants me to do, the world will reward me in ways I can never predict. So instead of looking at it as I'm going to burn so much money in a month, blessings started to happen as I started to walk that path. I realized that instead of paying rent in an apartment, I can buy a camper van. And suddenly my rent goes to nearly zero. I found out that my online music production school in Los Angeles I wanted to study with liked my story on Instagram of me studying their course online from a van, and they gave me a job to write a blog and earn in US dollars. Now, when I was first speaking to Lockie, I didn't know that these two things were in my path. And I didn't know that if I took a leap of faith, these things would happen. So ever since then, I've been practicing abundant thinking because Lockie showed me that one of my fears was living a spontaneous and flexible lifestyle where I follow my heart. I then listed two other fears that were to do with making music and my fear of heights. And I spent the next 3 years making music, living a spontaneous life, and finally, in the Himalayas, jumping off a cliff to experience paragliding and feeling my fear of heights melt into ecstasy. So that's why I say we should follow our fears and not our dreams, because that's how we truly grow.
I truly love that. You know, our fears are here to show us our dreams. That's how I've come to think of fears, right? I have a huge pet peeve whenever I tune into Instagram and there is some self-proclaimed coach who will tell people to forget about their fears, just ignore your fears and do it anyway. And from a psychological perspective, that's actually a bit of dangerous advice. But then also from a coaching perspective, from a designing your life perspective, it's like, well, what instead of ignoring your fear, you were to partner with your fear? What I really hear in your story is you got curious. Like, what is this fear here to tell me? What if I leaned into it? Maybe that's where my dream is.
What's on the other side?
Absolutely. So I'm going to bounce back and forth a little bit. Tell us about Jungli. Jungli is your nomad village that you founded on your family's ancestral land in South India. Tell us everything about it.
Yeah, tying the two together, running Jungli is my absolute fear. It's the biggest fear I've had since a child. And I'll tell you why. I grew up in this beautiful rainforest land in South India, not knowing the lucky, privileged childhood I was blessed to have because I was a kid. I didn't know anything else. So my great-grandfather was a freedom fighter for India and an industrialist. And he set up a factory, specifically called a ferroalloy factory. We had mines. We used to melt the rocks, get the ore, and sell it as a high-value product, basically, right? So naturally, we had the factory. We had this campus that comes around a factory. We had all these beautiful bungalows, all these beautiful people working. And I grew up in that environment, climbing trees, running around in my underwear, and being very spoiled and not knowing it. In the year 2001, unfortunately, I was like 6 or 7 years old, the factory came to a screeching halt. And my dad was suddenly faced with a big liability rather than a big blessing. And everything that comes with a big piece of land that's come to a stop. So you can imagine court cases, labor strikes, unions, you name it, my dad's dealt with it. And I grew up watching my dad carry a lot of stress around this. And the more you grow up, you start to realize, especially in an Indian context, even though my parents are super cool and modern, that what is your parents is also yours. Your family in India is one unit. We are a collectivist society rather than the more individualist societies of, let's say, Australia and Europe and America. Ours is more, we view my money is my dad's money is my money. Like it's all the same thing, right? So growing up, we always had this thought that, oh, Dandeli, what we have in this town is so beautiful, but we can't do anything because of said court cases or said lack of cash flow. We had all the industrial expenses that we used to carry without the industrial income. So it's been a tough time for my family for 24 years. I'm not going to lie. But the beautiful thing that started to happen on the side for me with nomad life and the growth journey that I went on, following my fears and things like that, is that I started to view this burden that we viewed as a family as a burden. I started to view it as a blessing. Because I started to realize as I built a community and I traveled as an audio nomad, that there are many of us post-COVID that are either making money from our laptop, right? And our office, our home is our laptop. Wherever we go, we can make money. And that's the movement of digital nomadism, which I feel is like one half of my identity. And there are also so many, let's call them freelancers or artists, right? So let's say traveling artists that were traveling either to zone in and create something they really wanted to create. That was me with my musical album. I created Moments of Clarity. That was my journey. But there were people that also got good at it and managed to turn it into a monetizable skill, like graphic designers, web designers, and even composers, sound effects artists, voiceover artists, podcast artists. I met all these people that were able to turn a creative passion into a skill, which we loosely call freelancers, right? So let's say that's the other 50% of my personality. So naturally, I was attracting people like this around me. I was building a community online on Instagram. I also collected email IDs. I started to authentically share my journey with them and hear back from them. And I found that I had a natural community around me of people that enjoyed working and creating from beautiful places. So if you were to put that in the demand basket, then if you looked at the left at the supply basket, sorry to go back to my Uber ops manager brain, I realized that if people love to work and create from beautiful places, guess what? Do we have a beautiful place, right? And that's this childhood home, this factory campus, this rainforest. It's been lying here dormant for 24 years. Sure, if we just jump into it, there are risks, there are court cases, there are opposing forces in whatever business you start. But if there's one thing my time at Uber taught me, because if you know the history of Uber, the regulation for it wasn't even written. And they went, made it happen, got the demand, and then got them to lobby the government in every country around the world, state by state, and get Uber regulated. And today we can't imagine a world without Uber or its competitors that just famously copied it, like Grab, Didi, all of these apps. So if there's one thing that story taught me is that every company is going to face issues. You just got to face the obstacles head on. You have to rally the people, build a community, and truly solve a problem. And hopefully do something that's good, that's doing good for the world. Because if you do good, it might just help down the line. So using this kind of philosophy and new bravery, I approached my parents and I said, yo guys, how about you guys are 60 plus now, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. COVID's reminded us all of that. I'm now 30 plus, right? What am I doing? Living like a hippie, out of a backpack, making music. I'm pretty happy. But what if we could combine powers and I could turn this place into a nomad village with your blessings and with your support, of course. And we do it in a quiet way because it's risky for us to go really big and loud and then attract all sorts of people that may want to come here to just drink and get messed up. And then, politicians and the local scene. You'd rather do things quietly with the right community, foster a grassroots positive energy right at the base, set community rules, boundaries, house rules of the space, and then build on top of that foundation a more public story. And my parents said absolutely. They were just thrilled to hear that after this journey and after seeing the entire world, I was happy to come back home to my home of all homes and turn it into something that helps push my parents into retirement, but also helps do something good with this land, viewing it again as a blessing rather than a burden. That's how we launched Jungli, the Nomad Village.
So many places we can go from here. I'm so curious about how your parents reacted when you first left for Australia. I'm really curious about how you approach entrepreneurship, right? And the risk. I'm really curious about how you build community. I know community is something that you I believe, spearheaded building for Uber. And it's something that's really carried you through your journey as an audio nomad. And of course, it's something that you source very intentionally, and I believe in quite a unique way at Jungli as well. So I'm gonna let you take this conversation wherever you want to wherever you want to take it. Any of the balls I just threw at you, which one do you want to pick up?
Sure, that's a great question. I think the topic of community is a very powerful one because it's one that's misunderstood, and it's a word that gets thrown around today and gets clubbed into the same thing as having an Instagram page, and they're not the same thing. So I want to just mention the power of community in a brief way. And again, through a story of a person that changed my life by actually teaching me what community is in about 30 minutes on a whiteboard, right? I'll give it to you in 5 minutes. So when I was at Uber, there was a bunch of nerds, analytics people and bankers and investors that had come together to build Uber. And none of them were people. I'm just saying it as it is. Very few of them were people. So then we had one guy called Mark Floyd, and he was a senior labor and industrial relations director, global, that was coming from America to Sydney to meet us and meet my team, which was the driver engagement team. Now, he saw that I had this kind of like spark and drive for community, and he pulled me into a room and he made a very simple diagram. And the diagram basically said one thing. If I was to summarize it in one thing, he said, people just want to feel heard. Just remember that. And this is not just for community. This is not just for a company to an Uber driver. This is not just for you and me. This is for people at every level, be it a husband and a wife, be it an employee and their employer, and be it a group of friends that are a community. People just want to be heard. So if that's your problem statement, how can we make people feel heard? How do we go about solving it? That's how he broke it down, almost like a maths equation. And he said, well, when people speak, they want you to know that you heard them because they want you to say back to them what they told you so that they know that you know and you know that they know. So how do you do that? One very good example he gave me, which was the Uber model, which I'll explain to you, and you can apply it, whoever's listening, in your own methods, right? So there were all these drivers that are driving in cars alone across the country, right? And they're facing all these problems, and they don't know that we know that they're facing the problems and that other drivers are also facing the problems. So they would write into us, they would email us, they would call us, they would yell at us, all sorts of stuff. And so what Mark Floyd instructed me to do was to run a round table where you invite 10 drivers into a place and offer a bit of coffee and tea and ask them to speak their hearts out. How are you, man? What's good? What's working? What's not good? What's not working? Sit in front of them with a notepad and write it down. A notepad is a very powerful thing. Even if you're scribbling in there, ideally you should not be. You should be writing down what they're saying. That's actionable. But even if you're scribbling in there, people just knowing that they're getting points on the board feels great. Why? Because you're making them feel heard, right? So you sit there and you write down the 3 things they say that's working well, 3 things that are not working well, right? And then you share it back with them and you say, thanks so much. We'll work on whatever's actionable. Now, the skeptic will immediately say, well, what's the point of that? You've helped 10 people. There's 80,000 people out there, right? So you have to amplify this impact. Like no one's going to care. That's a drop in the ocean. What are you going to do? Meet 10 people every day for the rest of your life? That's not scalable. So here's what you do. You record that roundtable. You take a photo of that roundtable. Maybe you take audio bites of that roundtable. You take these points and then you put it into your podcast or your email newsletter or your scalable long-form communication that everybody can access. For us, the podcast worked well because of language differences. People found they could understand better through audio rather than read a long email if you're ESL or English speaker as a second language. So the podcast is how I got into podcasting. That's I launched the Uber podcast with Uber Australia and New Zealand. And I was able to share with people that, hey, here's a roundtable that we ran. Here's what your fellow drivers said. In fact, here's their voices saying it, so that they can hear authenticity, that it's not just some manager with some fancy mic and accent, but this is actually a driver through a phone mic. Get that authentic audio. This is my audio side coming back in for you. And then let them know that you know, and let them know what you're doing about it, right? So now you've amplified the power. So why I talk about this, and you might think like, hey, you should be talking about communities and Nomad Village. Why are you talking about that? That's because that's how I learned. Those were my training wheels. You can now take that model and you can apply it to anything. So here's what we're doing at Jungli. If this is a good segue and interesting for you, how we built the Jungli community, how does this Nomad Village run, and how is it truly powered by a community, right? The day I told my parents I want to run a Nomad Village and they said, yes, sure, son, go ahead. I went away and I wrote a vision. I wrote a manifesto. I wrote my dream. I teared up. I was so excited. Mowgli was returning home. So I was pumped. And the first thing I knew is that this was going to be a very long solo journey with a lot of bias. If one person built something, a lot of founders' bias comes in. I would spend all my budget on speakers and microphones if it was up to me. Luckily, I am balancing my founder's bias by engaging my community. So I looked at my Instagram page. I saw that I have 5,500 followers. It's not huge, right? It doesn't need to be huge. An audience does not need to be huge for you to find 100 people that care from it. That's what matters. That's community. Community is nothing but your most engaged audience. Community is where you have a dialogue. Audience is where you have a monologue. That's the difference. So from my 5,500 followers on Instagram, I was lucky to have about 600 people's email IDs. That obviously is my most engaged people because they've taken the time to put their email in a box and hear from me and not unsubscribe after like me sending them an email every month. That means they're pretty invested, right? So I went through my email list and I canceled out whoever I wouldn't want to live with. You got to do a cleanup, right? So maybe 10% of people that I'm like, all right, thanks for your email ID. I don't mind sending you music, but I don't want to live with you in my community, right? You're a drug addict. Best of luck, mate. You're on your journey. I'm on mine, right? So you find the people that have shared values and I sent them an email. I said, look, guys, you followed my audio journey. You like to either work or create from beautiful places and nature. That's why you're in this email list. I am launching a Nomad Village. I don't want to do it alone. I want to do it with co-founders that share the value. Because my dad and my team on the ground here in Dandeli are blessings, but they're 60 plus and all male. I need a diverse community of opinions, of input. Here's a WhatsApp group. If you're interested, let's build this thing together. Sent this email to 550 people. I woke up the next morning with 75 people in a WhatsApp group.
Holy cow.
And it sounds like a small number, but it's the pyramid of engagement, right? 5,500 on Instagram, 150 after filtering on email IDs, 75 on WhatsApp in one day. Today, we have 312 members in the WhatsApp group. To be precise, I just added the 312. And so what's happening in this WhatsApp group is that at any point when I need to make a decision about a nomad village, who am I building this nomad village for? I'm building it for nomads. I'm building it for them, for the people in this WhatsApp group. They are a representative of my target market, speaking in audience and marketing terms. So isn't it smarter for me to ask them what they would prefer and how they would want the pricing model or the coffee or the minimum internet speed or what they want in a room, what they want in a bathroom? Isn't it better for me to ask them rather than me make that in solitude, wait for them to come here, give me feedback, then break my system and make a new system? So instead, we do surveys, we do polls, and we get to product market fit organically rather than through trial and error. That's the theory of the Jungli community and who we are today.
If you ever wanted to have I don't know how many career, like a fifth career, then I would suggest that you go to work for American orchestras. And now this may seem completely outlandish, but this
I'm
is actually
so intrigued.
Yeah, we can have a whole separate conversation about what community building versus audience building means, specifically pertaining to American orchestras.
Okay.
I have a background in orchestra management. This is my
Oh my
old
God,
9 to
amazing.
5.
Is that right?
How have we not talked about this?
You told me you're musical. What instrument do you play?
Well, I play clarinet. I used
That's
to do
right.
a lot of musical theater, so, dancing, my body is my instrument. But
Nice.
I ended up working for the administration of American Orchestra. So I did a lot of fundraising. And specifically, I was interested in how can we make this really old European-centric art form more relevant to American communities.
Very cool.
And at the time, there was this newly emerging department that most orchestras were beginning to put resources into called community engagement. At first, it was called community outreach, very much a monologue. And then we were like, no, we're not reaching out. We mean to engage our community.
Yeah.
But really, so we called it community engagement, but it was unfortunately for many orchestras, not so much something that they really meant at their heart. It was more of an opportunity to get a more diverse donor base, to gain access to more DEI-based government funds. It was actually something that really just irked the crap out of me.
The old ulterior motive.
Exactly. No, not a lot of people. And I must say, like, I'm sharing this from the perspective of this is what happened in the field, like, up to 6 years ago. I'm seeing a lot of change from afar. So, if anyone listening is working in that field, please don't take this personally. I have been out of the field for a very long time and very intentionally so. But, the reason I'm sharing all of this is because we were saying we want to build community, but as managers of the art form, we had not yet figured out how to put the art form inside the community. There was a lot of what you would say audience building, the monologue.
Yes.
Right? And add to that, probably a little bit about classical music, Western classical music that is. It can be a very ivory tower-esque art form, right?
It's as snobby as it gets.
Exactly. It's like musicians are sitting on the stage in a tuxedo. It's literally as snobby as it gets, right? Most people's question when you first take them to the concert hall is, what will I wear?
Oh my God,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, if you make the entry barrier this tough and this hard to overcome, it's just, you're not really truly building a sustainable audience. And there was a lot of talk, a lot of marketing speak of like, oh, we'll tell them what a symphony is. Nobody cares what a symphony is. Like, what is it going to do for me? What's the impact? How am I going to feel? Oh, we'll teach them all about why Beethoven used this fifth and this fourth and,
who cares?
And used this trend. And it's like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
How am I going to feel? Can I have a drink while I watch the thing? What's the conversation I'm going to be able to have? Who are the people I'm going to be able to meet, right? And I just wish that, and I think at this point, we're probably doing this. I say we, like I'm still a part of the field. We're beginning to actually have a conversation with the community.
Oh, you're still in the field. That's amazing. Okay, so what are you doing differently?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No,
I see.
I'm just, that's why I'm saying. I'm saying as though I'm still in the field. But
I see, okay.
Like, I don't know what the frick's happening in that field right now. But from afar, I'm seeing some changes. All of this huge, digression into my former life to say, I want to hone in a little bit on the difference between having a monologue with your audience versus having a dialogue with your community. Looking specifically at online entrepreneurs, right? These are the people that you bring over to Jungli. I assume that at Jungli,
one of the markets,
living for nomads, right? Like, there are probably a lot of people sitting there on their laptops, and that's how they make money, right?
Yes.
And when I work with clients, especially like the startup entrepreneurs, 90% of the focus is, I have to build my online audience.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, how about we build one connection with 5 people so that you can start getting paid? And then we can go and think about building an audience in a way that's actually aligned. So Doc, I'd love for you to just take us a little deeper into your experience, both with Uber and Jungli, of what it means to build a community. Like, if I'm starting out fresh, how do I start? And how do I know whether or not I'm building an audience or a community?
Sure. Thank you. Such a good question, Dina. One of my favorite topics. I'm happy to give a few broad examples across different categories rather than going too deep into one, so that we can help, whether it's a musician listening or we can help an entrepreneur that's listening. So let's start with the example of your orchestra, right? One example of how your orchestra could have turned that one-way conversation into a community would be to turn the audience into a choir, right? So let's use turn your audience into a choir as as a chorus, as the analogy going forward, okay? Because there is one man who is doing this incredibly well. And do you know who he is?
No.
Okay, there's one man making classical music cool again, and his name is Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
He's going around the world turning the audience into a choir, right? You know what else he's doing? He's also going on Instagram and asking people to send in samples of them singing, and then he plays the keys to it, right?
He remixes it, yeah.
He remixes it, right? So now we have 2 examples. From an offline perspective, he's creating a conversation in what's otherwise a very strict environment of tuxedo and orchestra and performance halls and music conservatoriums. You know that too well. He's breaking that fourth wall.
Don't clap in between movements.
Don't clap between movements. He's breaking that fourth wall by allowing the audience to speak to him. He's also done something where he turns to the orchestra. He moves his hands and the orchestra knows to go out of tune. Now, as an orchestra manager, rule 1 is never go out of tune. Tune all your instruments. But by showing to the audience that he is okay to break the rules, then when he turns around and tells the audience to sing in the choir, they're happy to do it because he's showing them that this is different to your classical concert. He's showing them the structure of this relationship and how it's different to anything that they're used to. So that's the offline example. The online example, where he's asking people to send in videos and then he's playing to them, is genius. Do you know why? Because now the viewer that sent in the video, he has been featured on Jacob Collier's 1 million plus follower account. What are they going to do? They're going to share it. What are their other musician friends going to do? They're going to send in their video to Jacob Collier, hoping that they get featured in the next video. Right? So this is the power of UGC, user generated content. And this is applicable for any digital creator, right? And when I say creator or artist, I use that term pretty loosely. I believe that an entrepreneur can view themselves as an artist because a beautiful business model is a work of art, right? Where you found a beautiful problem, you found an elegant solution, you found a great way to make it happen and solve it. That's a work of art. So even if you're an entrepreneur that's solving a problem, right? Let's take that example. I would love for them to not just wait until they have a beautiful, shiny product or service and then the sexy landing page and then sell it and be like, hi guys, my name is David. I've made a sexy product. Please sign up on this landing page. That's a lot less engaging than a video of David on a late night going, I've got a problem. Is his name David? Is that why you're laughing? I'm just making up a character.
No, I'm just really thrilled about the voice acting that you bring to the podcast.
Oh, I see. Yes, it's maybe the audio. I can't help it. I have all these characters living in my head rent free. If they gave me rent, then my cash flow at Jungli would be sorted.
Well, bring them on.
All right, let's go. So if David instead, all names are purely fictional and no coincidences are intentional and all that stuff. So if David instead made a piece to camera video, right, with his phone camera, with his phone mic, nothing fancy, and just said, guys, I can't stop thinking about how every swimming pool, whenever it's vacuumed, you get a leaf stuck in it. This is a problem I'm dealing with at Jungli right now because of forest swimming pool, right? So I just can't stop thinking about it. I have to always open my motor, remove the leaf, and it's such a pain. I just want a product that can somehow allow us to filter the water and suck up the bad stuff, but easily clean out the leaves rather than it's getting stuck in my motor and my filter. This is what I'm thinking about. Tag any swimming pool guys, so I can have a jam with them. Right? And then if he shows the conversations that he has, if he goes to different swimming pools, if he shows how you make the product, how you get to the solution, and you bring people on that journey, you take people's input and you ask them, hey, if you're a swimming pool, if you're someone that cleans a pool and you're my target market, how long does it take you to clean a pool? Have a poll. What are your biggest problems when cleaning a pool? Have a poll, have a survey, share those results back to the audience, right? And then say, guys, looking at what everyone has said, this is what we've come up with. This is the pool filter. And this is being sourced by Ryan from California that gave me his idea, Jenna from London that gave me her idea, and Dina from Estonia that gave me their idea. This is a combination of all of those three people. This product is community powered. This product is community backed and tested. This also allows him to now go into the next world of online community building, which is crowdfunding. Because you've opened the door to conversation and you've had people lean in and engage, even if you're pre-product, you should start community building pre-product, pre-service, I believe, right? Then now that people are leaning in, you can say, guys, now we've gone all this effort. I've made a prototype. Look how sexy it is. Your pool cleaning can go down from 2 hours to 1 hour with this simple addition. How about you back it on Kickstarter? And anyone that backs it gets not just this pool filter mechanism, but also this free pool bed that I'm going to throw in and, whatever, make a tiered crowdfunding program where if you give $40, you get this much, you get this. If you get $20, you get this. If you get $10, you get a shout out. You can make different tiered crowdfunding programs. And then people are leaning in, they're part of your process. And then when it comes for product day, sales day, all of your crowdfunders are going to share it. And they're going to go, hey, I backed this. I made this happen. So that's one example of a community engagement approach for a tech startup entrepreneur. I want to give one more example, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Which is great for anyone running co-livings because that's very relevant in the nomadic market. And it's a beautiful example from Airbnb. When I was at Uber, I would always look metaphorically next door at Airbnb and think about how they do their community engagement so much better than Uber does, right? So they have the same marketplace, two-sided marketplace. Uber had drivers and riders, right? And Airbnb had hosts and guests. So their drivers, in other words, their supply provider, is a host, someone that's opening up their home. And your supply is your priority, right? If you're not taking care of your driver, if you're not taking care of your host, then the guest is not going to have a good time. As simple as that. So, you know what they used to do for their host that I thought was a brilliant example of bold community engagement from a corporate perspective? Again, the hosts would have unique problems, and they're all in homes all around the world. And they all think that Airbnb doesn't know the problem. It's the same thing. People want to feel heard. They don't know that they are heard. So they would write in, you need to change your cleaning fee policy. Oh, you really need to change your smart dynamic pricing policy, blah, 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 blah. And Airbnb is like, okay, 1 million people are saying this. 500,000 people are saying that. We know that. Now, most companies keep that data internally. And that's the biggest mistake, I believe. I believe that a company with some legal input, of course, policy legal input is important, should then make a page where they publicly share their customers' top requests or problems, right? Don't hide it, because it's not like they don't know the problem. The problem is that they don't know that you know the problem. So put it up in a website and have an upvote feature. Upvoting is such a beautiful community engagement tool, right? Where the host can log into host.airbnb.com. This is real. You can Google it, right? And they can go to their upvote page and it says the topmost problem that all Airbnb hosts are facing. And then the one below that, and then the one below that, and then the one below that. Now, if a new Airbnb host comes in and he writes your cleaning policy sucks, you need to change it. Now the Airbnb customer team can reply saying, hey, sorry, David, back to David, that you're facing this problem. We are aware about the issue. Please go to this page and upvote the issue. And the things that are on the top 5, we work on as a priority. And that company needs to make sure that they are working on those top 5 things as a priority. Otherwise, they're clearly not customer obsessed. Right? So we're working on the top 5 things as a priority, and Airbnb can have one response to those top 5 things. That's the latest progress update on their project right there. Show them the ugly backend. Tell them product is in testing. All right, A/B tests are made. Okay, we're waiting. Experiment 1 failed. We're now trying experiment 2. Let them know that progress is happening before you come up with your sexy solution that's going to take years and you're going to piss off 100,000 guests in the meantime, right? Show them the backend. Open that door. Those are some 2 cents I have about community engagement. I guess one was a choir or a musical example, because you brought it up. One was a online example for any online entrepreneur / artist to reveal their creative process, be it artistic or entrepreneurial. And the third is more of a corporate or a co-living or a community with shared values and shared problems. So these are 3 examples off the top of my head.
If I had to summarize everything that you've just shared with us, it would be an invitation to stop pursuing perfection and to start looking to your clients for answers instead of feeling as though you have to be the one who gives all of the answers. To dive a little more into that, so many of us, and myself included in the beginning, no, actually, that's not true. I am going to exclude myself from that. I was very imperfectionistic in the beginning, and more so now than I was in the beginning of my business. I just needed to get cash and I didn't have time to get it perfect, right? So I was just like, hey, here's a Google document that tells you about the offer that I have. Like, I didn't have time.
Perfect.
I didn't have money to put up a website, right?
It does the functional
here's
job.
A Google Doc. Exactly. It gets the job done. This is the transformation. This is the payment. I'm going to figure out how you can pay me, and boom, we're working together.
That's it.
Right? And this gets you to your dream goal so much faster, right? Because if you do this, if you do the bootstrapping, right? If you bootstrap your business, even if you know down the line you're going to need to have investors, you're going to need to have cash flow to actually grow this big and scale it. To start up a business, you need to get to the feedback from your ideal customers as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Prepayment and post-payment, right?
Yes.
Like I ask my clients all the time, is there anything that you need from me that I'm not giving you? I remind them all the time, I'm not psychic. I actually cannot read your thoughts. I'm really good at picking up cues and reading between the lines. That's my job as a coach. But I still can't read your mind.
Yes.
Right? So what is it that you need from me? And hey, it's not going to be perfect.
Yes.
Would you agree with that summary?
I 100% agree with that summary. This is a journey I've been on where I struggled with perfectionism a lot. And I did a business course recently, which taught me that the larger your appetite for shabbiness, the stronger you will be as an entrepreneur.
Ooh, that's good.
And it sounds so counterintuitive, doesn't it? It sounds like, no, we have to get everything right. Well, guess what? Getting things right is a journey. Making any standard operating procedure, which is what I'm living and breathing right now at Jungli as we set up our ops to get to a gold standard, is a journey. You're not going to get it right on the first day. So just guess what? Make a shabby thing. Don't worry about the branding. Okay. We get so hung up on branding that we forget that, dude, if you don't have an income right now, what are you worrying about a brand for? You don't have a brand. Okay. Get
Right.
people in, get cash flow going. Then the brand will organically build. There is a value to having good photographers and good designers. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in that, but there's a time and place for them. And before that, if you have to make a website of a co-living and you have to do phone photos initially, which is what I did, it's good enough until your dream photographer volunteer rocks up and takes the photos, which is what happened a few months after. And now you have great photos. Great. It's not like anyone's complaining, saying, oh, I can't believe your photos are just phone photos. No, that's all in our head. So improve the appetite for shabbiness.
Yeah, I love that so much. Improve the appetite for shabbiness. And this is a clear invitation to forget about perfection. Now, the other piece to this is just to sort of bust some myths about how to start. Essentially, we're talking about how to start making money, right?
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur. You crowdfunded and you tapped into your existing community to start making money with Jungli, right? And so often these days in this online world, we get hung up on, I first have to grow my community to 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 people before I even have permission to start selling. So rather than, trying to go and bust that myth, I wonder if you can just give us the counterexample, like quite specifically, if you're willing to share, how did you start making money with your new entrepreneurial venture, Jungli?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, every story is going to have its own situational quirks. So it's not like, I can't say step one, inherit 150 acres of rainforest, right? That would be very, so I want to put the elephant in the room out there, right? Like everyone is going to have their quirks. But here's the takeaway from that. We were viewing the 150 acres of rainforest as a burden, not as a blessing. So step one is actually see all the cards that you have and start to view them for their light and for their pros. A lot of people also have this thing of like, I don't want to live at my parents' place because I want to be independent. But hey, if your parents are supportive and if you're chasing a dream and if that's what you got to do, take whatever, use the cards in your deck. It's silly to be so egoistic and pig-headed to say, I'm not going to go that way because that's not me. Right?
Absolutely. If Steve Jobs can build Apple from out of his parents' garage, we can all build our businesses from, our inherited land, or in my case, from my mom's basement. It's like,
exactly.
With the ego.
Yeah.
Humble. Entrepreneurialism requires you to be humble.
You'd have to be humble. You have to do it all, right? There are 7 functions of business. If you want to break it down, like marketing, sales, ops, accounts, management, legal, I maybe missed one, but you have to be across all of them. You have to learn a little bit about all of them. That's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take years. So if you want to start by focusing on marketing, sales and ops, because that talks about how to generate leads, which is marketing, how to convert them into buyers, which is sales, and how to fulfill what the customer wants, which is ops. That's the beginning of the cycle, right? From there, you can outsource accounts if it's not your forte, or you can learn a bit of accounts and DIY your own accounts until you can hire someone for accounts. And then you've got the ball rolling. But coming back to your question I think your question is, how do you monetize a community, right? And, whether it's pre-revenue or what are the stages of it. So I want to tell you that I had no plan. Okay. I don't want to lie and say that this was my plan. This is what I've executed. And it goes back to the way of the founder. It goes back to the way of the artist. It's about what Lockie said to me that day that changed my life, that follow your heart, follow that inner voice, walk the tightrope, and the path ahead will become clearer and the world will support you in ways you can never imagine. So what happened for me, step by step, the beats of the story is I took Lockie's advice. I bought a camper van. I stopped paying rent. That helped me. I started sharing my story online, and stories have a power. That meant that my school in Los Angeles that I was studying music production from suddenly gave me an online job of writing blogs about music production, my dream job. So I had a bit of an income, and I was not just cost neutral, I was making money, right? And then that kept going to me building a community. I then sold the van. Again, I got some money that I didn't expect. I came back to India. Again, I got money because when you make money in Australia and then you live in India, this is the digital nomad hack number 1 called geo arbitrage or currency arbitrage, right? Then suddenly you have a lot more money. So that's another takeaway, that if there is someone that has the privilege of earning, it is a huge privilege of earning in a dollar, pound or euro, and then going somewhere like Indonesia and Vietnam and India
And then has the passport privilege to gain
Of
access
course, there's a
to
lot of
countries.
privilege inherent in here. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
use the cards you're dealt. It's silly to not. Okay.
Yeah.
So know your privilege, all that stuff. Be sensitive. Know what you're doing. Know that others don't have that privilege. Don't be cocky about it, but use it. Don't sit there and guilt trip yourself into not doing something. So anyway,
yeah, you
I
can
then
turn
did,
your privilege into responsibility to expand
yeah,
the impact
help,
that you have.
pass on the kindness, help, right? Now I'm crowdfunding and I'm, contributing now to my music teacher from my childhood. We'll talk about that at the end if you like. So anyway, then do the currency arbitrage thing. That's what I did. Came back to India, continued backpacking, made an album, continued to grow the audience. And then Jungli came about through a series of coincidences. I actually happened to go to Indonesia and got invited to the launch of a digital nomad village by the government over there, which was a huge honor. And over there, I saw, oh my God, what I obviously need to do is run a nomad village because their land was just like ours. And the foreigners, people from all around the world were loving it. The locals were loving it. It was helping the local economy. I started to see this win-win cycle that digital nomadism can bring around if done right and responsibly. And so I was like, yo, we got to do this. That's how I got here, told my parents, and then approached my community. So there was no plan in the beginning. The road has definitely shown itself as I followed its twists and turns and trusted that tomorrow will come. Now, though, looking back and answering your question about monetization, what is incredible, Dina, that you would appreciate from a business perspective is that I wanted to make sure that I launched Jungli quietly. As I said, we had some things to consider, and I wanted to ensure that it's open for a high quality audience because this is my heritage home. I don't want anyone pissing on the walls. Okay. So what we did is we grew the Jungli community. We told them, hey guys, we're getting internet set up. We showed them videos of the internet being set up. Hey guys, we're getting the bungalow ready. We showed them the videos of the bedrooms becoming ready, right? That journey. Hey guys, we've made the pool nice again. We showed them the pool. We showed that unsexy behind the scenes that too many people are not wanting to show. They want the color correction. All right. Stop the color correction. Show it to them as it is. Once we did that, we had around 200 to 220 people in the Jungli community. Okay. Now I want to give you a data point. Today, Jungli's been live for 10 months. We have spent zero on marketing and sales.
Amazing.
I don't recommend that. Just to be clear, my next step is I've hired a marketing manager. We're going to lean into marketing and sales. Do not think that word of mouth alone is enough. But I'm just showing you the power of community building. That in 10 months, we spent zero on marketing and sales. We have 300 people in the Jungli community, and 160 of them have come and lived at Jungli, the Nomad Village.
More than 50%?
More than 50% conversion. That's the power of community. You will not get a 50% conversion on Instagram. From
Hell
Instagram,
no.
you take the 10% that give you the email ID. From email ID, you take the 50% or the 40% that will give you a WhatsApp number. From your WhatsApp number, you invite, and 50% of that WhatsApp number has come. It's a funnel, top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom of funnel. So 100 nomads have come from more than 12 countries, lived at Jungli, and 40% of our revenue, this is what I'm super proud of, has come from solo female travelers. Because we want to make India a safe space for solo female travelers, because that's where it struggles from a branding perspective. And there are some realities there. So we help with airport pickup, community, solo female Jungli community on WhatsApp specifically for females so that women help women travel India. You know what I mean? Give people a feeling of belonging even before they check in. So talking about monetizing community, this is how it's happened for me. By me looking at the cards, I have been lucky to be dealt with. What I would love for a listener to do is to think about the community they're building, think about the cards that they have, and mind map different things that could happen from here, but continuing to walk their paths, knowing that they are not in control, that the road is in control, being a true nomad. The road will tell you what's going to happen. You have to just be humble enough to use your cards and use your privilege responsibly, as you very nicely put. So that's my tips. It's a little bit more high level because specificity can only come from knowing someone's specific situation. So I don't want to give any blanket advice.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to be born with a whole bunch of ancestral land in your
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But we were all born with some cards, right? One of the questions I tend to ask my clients is, well, how can this be here to support you? Whenever we go through dark time, whenever a launch failed, it's like, what is this here to teach you? What is the lesson? Because the lesson is in every single card, whether it's a card that we consider to be positive and advantageous or a card that we consider to be negative.
That's it.
So Divi, I so adore and appreciate your journey. I think you're really the epitome of turning any card into an opportunity that feels aligned for you.
Thank you,
And I
Dina. Very
love
kind.
you're so welcome. And I truly love your approach to life and to entrepreneurship as being one that is based in community. And I know that you walk that talk every single day. And you don't only pay it forward, you give back and you make sure that the people around you benefit in meaningful ways from the work that you do, from the community that you build, from the money that you bring in. So please talk to us a little bit about what you're crowdfunding for right now with your album.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. That one is a bit more of a homegrown cause. And so I was born here in Dandeli, raised, and one of the things, early life experiences I had, your parents throw you into many different classes. I was lucky to go to a harmonium class. A harmonium is an Indian instrument, like the keyboard meets the accordion. And so I did this harmonium class. And there was this teacher, and I think he only gave me maybe 5 to 10 lessons as a kid. But he obviously had a profound impact on me because growing up, music became what I felt drawn to again, even though I've not really technically been trained. And so what's been really heartwarming is I came back to Jungli and I bumped into my music teacher last year. And I found out that his son is this 18-year-old music prodigy that plays like 10 instruments. So now his son is one of our partners at Jungli. We send people from Jungli to town to learn the tabla, the harmonium, Indian classical singing with him. Because these are experiences you cannot get on a brochure. This is like legit in his house, in his living room, having chai and learning instruments from him. Now, it's beautiful that his son and his dad have come back into our lives. But recently I was informed that his dad has contracted tongue cancer. So my childhood music teacher has contracted tongue cancer. So my friends also messaged me, what do we do? What do we do? And it was a tricky situation, Dina, because over here, we're kind of custodians of this land and, we're very well known in this village. So if we start giving handouts, there's going to be a long line outside because India, there's no shortage of help that India needs. So it's tricky for me to do anything from a company perspective. So I was stumped. And then I saw that my friend Shiva from Australia, who had come here as a Jungli, learned tabla and flute with his son, is making an album and is going to crowdfund it. Well, he's going to sell it on Bandcamp with all funds going to his dad. So I'll definitely give credit where it's due. This is Shiva's idea. I realized looking back at my reels with one of them, the Bun Bao beat from Vietnam going a little viral, that a lot of people are asking for these silly beats I make for Instagram reels to be put on Spotify. So I was like, yeah, why not? I want to practice imperfection, even though these are just 1-minute songs that I whipped together in like a day. People seem to like them and so want them on Spotify. Let me just throw it up on Spotify and be this shabby artist rather than this perfect thing that'll never come. And I put it up. I packaged it up as Beats from the Streets. Again, a name that my community gave me through an Instagram poll. I was trying to go for Beats by Schae, like Beats by Dre, because Schae is my last name. But nobody liked my joke, Dina. I was very upset. So we've gone with Beats from the Streets. And I've taken Shiva's idea. I've thanked him for it. And I've shared it on Instagram and on my community. And I've asked people to contribute with 100% of earnings, going towards my childhood music teacher. So I'm very proud to say that we've now raised more than $150, which goes a long way in a place like India, when you convert it to rupees. And so, yeah, I'd love to share that. And so if any of your listeners would also like to contribute, if you are able to share the link to the Bandcamp link, that's the best place where people can buy the album. It'll support a good cause.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll take the lead and be the first to donate after we get off this
call. Oh, thank you. That's so kind.
Of course. And I invite all of my audience to do that too, right? Even just from a business perspective, you want to have at least 5 to 10% of your revenue to go towards charity. Because if not to make the world a better place, why are we in business? Why are we going for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 figures in business if not to make the world a better place?
That's it.
And sometimes we can do this for the masses, and other times it's so much more meaningful to do it for this one person where you can actually put a face to a specific name. And
yeah,
that's it. Bringing that story to us, and thank you for being a part of hopefully saving this person's life and health.
Thank you so much, Dina. It's been such a pleasure to be on your podcast. You're such a great conversationalist, both at a bar and online. You asked some very good questions, very well framed, and I really appreciated you taking the time to feature me and my family's story over here. We're honored and can't wait for it to be out and shared across my community.
Absolutely. I can't wait to put this out to the masses as well. Thank you so much for making time. I'll ask you one last question. Well, two. how can people find you? And
Sure.
what is your definition of freedom?
I like it. What a plot twist. So best way to find me is Instagram. My handle is Divi the Audio. That's Divi the Audio. It's a bit of a cliffhanger because then I can be an audio nomad or an audio teacher or whatever. So Divi the Audio is the best way to find me. What is my definition of freedom? I think what I have learned after nomadism is that freedom is actually a mindset. I used to think that freedom is a nomad in a van that can go wherever he wants, whenever he wants, do whatever he wants, blah, 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 blah. And I used to think that a family man with a partner and 2 kids does not have freedom because I was exploring, I guess, extremes. Now I have learned after, I think, getting a little bit more wiser and some very wise friends with a friend in Vietnam, that even that family man with a wife and 2 kids can be just as free as the nomad in the van. And sometimes that nomad in the van can feel trapped by that van because you know what? That solar panel can get glitchy, man. I'll tell you that much. So I've realized that freedom is a mindset because you are either by yourself and doing what you want to do, or you're surrounded by people, be it your family or community, that support you to show up in the best way that you want and do what you want to do. And it's not as small as, I can't do this thing because I got to help someone. I can't do that. That's not a lack of freedom. If you want to help that person, then that's freedom. Because you have the freedom to help someone else, to compromise if you choose to do what you want. So I think freedom is living your best life, whatever that life may look like to you, be it solitude or family.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your time, your experience, your story, your vision with us. And to the audience, my invitation is, as always, every single week, my invitation is to create more freedom today than you did yesterday.
Nice.
And yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Divi. Freedom is a mindset first, lifestyle strategy second, and third. I hope you gained from this episode. Please let us know in the comments and on Instagram what it is that you took away from this episode. And I will see you next week. Take care. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the podcast, Your Business Untethered, hosted by me, Dina, creator of Way of the Founder. I love hearing from you, so please drop me a DM on Instagram sharing your insights from this episode. And if you are ready to take the leap, my free guides, Plot Your 9-to-5 Escape in 7 days, and the Freedom Business Scorecard are in the show notes for you to grab. This episode created change for you? Please leave a review and be a friend and share this with a friend or colleague that you love. Until next time, please wake every day, seize the day, defy the norm, and create your very own type of freedom. I love you. I do mean it.